And we are live. Welcome back to Raised by Giants Illuminated Insights, a show where we're going to give you the facts and the research behind some of the most highly regarded belief systems that are floating around the community today, with theories about extraterrestrial visitations, galactic command star fleets landing and saving humanity from impending doom, predictions that never come true, and a lot of new age mumbo jumbo. So, and supposed advanced technology like time travel and channeling extraterrestrials, telepathy, and psychic communication. And welcome everyone in the chat. Good to see everyone. Paul, What the Flock TV, Noble Truth, Experimental Elemental, Sam, good to see you, brother. Chloe. Yeah, I got a good little group in here. So what we're going to get into today is this UFO Doomsday Cult. In this part 2 episode is cloning, right? And more specifically, extraterrestrial cloning from the Elohim, right? Because that's how they live forever, right? Well, I mean, that's according to this dude right here, Rael, from this Raëlianism cult. So if you haven't listened to part 1, I highly recommend it. We covered a lot in that last episode. We covered the Seekers cult, which is started by Dr. Loghead, and then was led by this lady right here, Dorothy Martin. And basically what happened there was they had a bunch of end-of-the-world doomsday predictions that never came true. And that's really where we first heard this mention of a guardian extraterrestrial race. And then we got George King here from the Aetherius Society cult, which George King supposedly channeled many extraterrestrial races, not just one. He upped the ante on that one, right? He was channeling the Brotherhood, the Venetians, the Martians, and that's where we get a lot of these belief systems that Jesus was an extraterrestrial from Venus, along with Buddha, and that Krishna was from Saturn, and that this dude George King was told that he was Earth's galactic ambassador. And, you need to raise your frequency and all of that. And then we covered George Van Tassel here that started channeling Ashtar in the early 50s. And he also had the ability to contact Nikola Tesla as well via psychic communication that he learned from a Swami that broke into his apartment and taught him yoga and meditation, which unlocked these psychic abilities. And he built a machine called the integration machine that did a few things, apparently, like life extension, immortality, time travel, and anti-gravity. That he learned how to make this machine via psychic communication with Nikola Tesla, right? And then that whole Ashtar Command cult got way out of hand, out of control, and they had to completely rebrand themselves all love and light and new age because they were getting so much backlash and from failed predictions, and people were catching on. And I really hope that you guys are catching on to what's going on here as well. I mean, that's my goal, because this is really where it all started. Yes, once again, welcome everyone in the chat. I have a really great show for everyone here today. It's good to see you guys. Let me grab... I printed out a bunch of different pictures for you guys because it's just easier to do it that way. But first off, I want to thank Tracy for the kind and generous $5 Buy Me a Coffee donation. Thanks so much for your support of my work and the show. Really helps me bring you guys amazing research and content. And those of you guys that are busting my balls about the monetization and the super chats and the Buy Me a Coffees and the PayPal donation, why don't you go bust these grifters' balls, right? Why don't you go bust the balls of these people that are making thousands of dollars off of provably fake and made up nonsense stories, yeah? Why don't you yell at the David Wilcox of the world, huh? Why don't you yell at the Lyndon Moulton Howes of the world that supposedly charges $1,000 for an interview, right? With her whistleblower stories that you're not allowed to know who they are, right? You guys should be yelling at them, not someone that works hard and does real research, right? I've been doing this show for over 3 years and haven't made a penny off of YouTube because I chose not to monetize until now, right? So, I mean, that's what it is. And I always make sure to thank each and every person that sends a donation or sends a super chat, because your support means a lot to me, and I'm doing the best that I can, guys, to give you what I honestly believe is going on here. Scotty boy, good to see you, brother. Ball buster, that's right. It's difficult you can't cuss on these things, so I gotta work around it. So this week we're going to be looking at a cult that is still active today because their leader is still alive. And that cult is called Raëlism, also known as Raelianism, which they are a UFO cult that was founded in 1974 in France by their leader, which goes by the name of Rael, which his real name is Claude. So before we get into that, we're going to go over some of the belief systems from this cult, because you guys are really going to find this super interesting, where a lot of this stuff comes from, right? So Raëlianism teaches that there exists an extraterrestrial species known as the Elohim, right? And Rael has said that the word Elohim, which is used for God in the Old Testament, is actually a plural term, which he translates to those who came from the sky, right? And Rael calls individual members of the Elohim Eloah, which I was like, holy crap. I got duped on that too. That's what I talked about in my symbolic and allegorical nature of the Bible. See, none of us are impervious to any of this stuff, right? But it's important to go back and figure out where this stuff came from. Hi, Lynn. Good to see you. So I got duped on this. I said that the plural term was for Elohim were Eloah, and that, made God that created Adam and Eve some sort of androgynous figure. But where that came from was this Rael guy in 1974, right? So the Elohim gave him his name Rael, a term which I'm glad that he acknowledges it. It derives from Israel. And the Elohim claimed that the Elohim gave him this name, Rael, and that because of the name Israel, right? So he initially claimed that he had a physical meeting with these beings in 1973, where he was just 27 years old. And he said that he was walking along this mountain range called the Piedalasosis Mountains in, it wasn't in France, it was in, I can't think of exactly. There's so much information on this. In Paris. That's where the Piedalasos Mountains are, is in Paris. And he was walking along this mountain range when one of these Elohim spaceships appeared, right? And the Eloah emerged, which he claims that they were all feminine versions. And they asked him to return the next day and bring a Bible, and Rael did so. And over the next 6 days, the Eloah explained to him the true meaning of its contents, right? Revealing more about the Elohim's involvement in human history, right? And Rael added that he was contacted by the Elohim again a second time on October 7th, 1975, when they took him aboard their spaceship, right? And transported him to their home planet, where, get this, where he was offered 6 biological robot women to have sex with, right? And they taught him this new form of meditation, which is a technique that he labels sensual meditation, right? Which we're going to get into here later on, but we're going to go over the belief systems of this cult first. So Rael said that the Elohim are physically smaller than humans, with pale green skin and almond-shaped eyes, and they divided into several different races, which is very interesting because later on, he then claims that they look more like human beings, and they all of a sudden got taller and they looked a lot like Asian women, which this dude Rael, he loves Asian women, which we're going to get into. So according to Rael, the Elohim planet is outside of the solar system, but within the Milky Way, right? Rael says that there are 90,000 Elohim on their planet, and that they are all immortal, and that they don't wear clothes. They're just naked out there, right? And they're all permitted to engage in free love with one another, and sexual jealousy has been eliminated, and they're all regarded as in like a feminine matter. Like they're way more feminine than any female on Earth. Rael stated, has been on the record saying that the most feminine women on Earth is only 10% as feminine as the Elohim, right? Rael also reports that the Elohim can communicate with humans because they understand all human languages, right? And Raelism also teaches that about 25,000 years ago, the Elohim arrived on Earth and transformed it so life could develop. He also states that the Elohim used their advanced technology to establish all life on the planet. And Rael also refers to humans on the Earth as some form of a biological robot for the Elohim, right? That have been created and programmed by the Elohim. And Rael also teaches that the Elohim scientist responsible for creating humanity was named Yahweh, right? It's really interesting because Yahweh, I was talking to Paul Knight the other day, which he's in the chat, I believe, What the Flock TV, and it really seems like people weren't talking about Yahweh in the way that they talk about him now. You know, the one God, the real God, Yahweh, until like the last 15 years, no one ever mentioned Yahweh. But this dude from this Raelian cult, Rael, was talking about Yahweh all the way back in 1974. So he claims that Yahweh was the first of two humans to be, that Yahweh basically created Adam and Eve, right? And the Raelians believe that there were originally 7 human races, modeling the 7 Elohim races, but and that they were different colors. So there was purple beings, there were blue beings. Oh man, blue beings. Wonder where? Shoot, blue avians. Where did that come from? Oh my god. And green races. Apparently, those ones had died out, right? And the Raelians believe that the accounts of God and various the gods in various mythologies around the world are misinterpretations of the memories about the Elohim. The philosophy also goes on to state that the sacred scriptures of many religions described in the ongoing activities of the Elohim on earth, such as the tale. What he done is he basically just read the Bible and then inserted extraterrestrials into the Bible as a way of explaining the Bible. Right? So for instance, with Adam and Eve being kicked out of the Garden of Eden is, according to Rael, is really representing humanity's difficult transition from the Elohim's laboratories to life on Earth. And that this one's pretty interesting, right? And we've heard before, primarily from Ashiana Dean, that the resurrection of Jesus as presented in the Bible is described as representing how the Elohim cloned Jesus. to restore him to life after death, which Ashyanadin talks about all these clones of Jesus. There's Jesus 1.0, Jesus 2.0, and 3.0, and all that. And that was in 99, right? This Rael guy was way ahead of his time, right? Or someone's just regurgitating some information, and I promise it's regurgitation. And also, for example, Satan in the Bible is referred to as the chief of the group of the Elohim on the Elohim's planet, who were opposed to genetic experiments on Earth, and who basically wanted to destroy Earth because they saw humans as a potential threat, which harkens back to the Sumerian text as well. So, and then also, according to the Raelians and this Raelian cult, the Great Flood narrative was an attempt by the anti-human aliens to wipe out humanity, but that humanity was rescued by an alien spacecraft, which was known as Noah's Ark. So those are really interesting, and people have taken those concepts and those thoughts and those ideas and those theories and then regurgitated them and put their own type of spin on them, just like I've shown you from the first episode, right? So Rael basically claims that various figures who were established through religious mythology or who inspired religions throughout human history, including Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and even Joseph Smith, right, are portrayed by the Raelians as having been guided by the Elohim creators, right? And the religion also teaches that the Elohim continue to monitor every human individual on Earth remotely from their planet that's not in our solar system, but in the Milky Way galaxy. Right? And this is done so that the Elohim can decide which individuals merit being offered the opportunity of eternal life. Right? It argues that the Elohim continue to visit Earth from time to time and contact some individuals here and there, but no one can communicate with the Elohim besides Rael. Right? Everybody else, they're not getting the true information. Just like George Van Tassel from the Ashtar Command Cult, right? He claimed that he was the only person that was contacting Ashtar. So Rael is the only person that's in contact with the Elohim. Right? And the evidence of this, according to Rael, is crop circles, which are supposed landing spaces of the Elohim spacecraft, which we've heard several people talk about years and years and years later, that these crop circles are some kind of signal or some kind of landing pad as well. The Nazca lines, people claim that the Nazca lines were some kind of landing pad for these extraterrestrial beings and these extraterrestrial spacecraft, right? So Rael basically claims that all the other alleged alien contactees other than himself, right, is the only person that's in contact with the Elohim. But they also believe that everyone is capable of linking telepathically with the Elohim, but that only Rael is permitted to meet with them physically or receive their revelations, right? And his revelation is that the Elohim are going to land on Earth in 2035. And if we aren't prepared for them to land, then we're basically going to be destroyed. If we haven't created an embassy, a landing pad for these Elohim beings that are going to come back in 2035, then we're toast. And Rael also claims that since the U.S. military use of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima in 1945, humanity has been living in the age of the apocalypse, or the age of revelation. Right? It states that the human species must now choose whether to use science and technology. This is coming straight from the Elohim, right? Physically, where he met these Elohim beings, right? We either use science and technology to enhance life or to use it to bring about nuclear annihilation, right? There's your doomsday stuff right there. It claims that if Rael claims that if humans successfully get through this present age, then we'll live in an era of advanced technology in which society will be tolerant and sexually liberated. Have I not mentioned that Rael here loves sex? He's all about sex. Loves them. And apparently he's have sex with these Elohim beings all the time. And they give him human cyborg sex robots that he could have sex with all the time. So Rael claims that he was destined to help lead humanity away from this path of destruction. And according to Rael, he's going to bring about a peaceful age, which will cause the return of the Elohim to Earth in 2035. Then he goes on to claim that they will bring with them the 39 immortal prophets whom have been previously sent by the Elohim to guide humanity. Rael stated that humanity has to build, they have to build an embassy for these Elohim, right? Prior to their arrival. They can't come if the embassy is not complete. They can't come if they don't have that Elohim landing pad. Right? Even though supposedly the crop circles are landing pads too, they can't use any of those. They got to physically talk to Rael here so that he can build them a UFO landing pad so that they can come in 2035. Right? So Rael states that once the Elohim land on Earth in 2035, the Elohim will share their advanced technology and scientific understanding with humanity, and this will help to usher in a utopia, right? And Rael teaches that the Elohim's arrival with this new and improved, it'll be a new political system on Earth, and there will be a one world government, right? And that only those who are 50% more intelligent than the average person that are on Earth today will be permitted to rule, right? And Rael claims that this future society will have no war and crime, and will have crime will have been ended through genetic engineering. And in this future, Rael states that humanity will be able to travel beyond the Earth to colonize other planets. And he claims that robots will assume a lot of their task, allowing humans to basically devote all of their time to pleasurable pursuits. He also states that there will be biological robots. He loves these robots, man. Loves these sex robots, which will serve as consort slaves, right? Which are exactly like those that Rael states he encountered on his visit to the Elohim planet, right? He also says that there will be a single world currency will be introduced as a prelude to the total cashless society, which will be like, and then there will be a world calendar, a new world calendar that will be adopted. And he's talking about all this stuff way before this community was talking about it. Right? So where did this community get all these ideas from? That's the question. Right? And that's what we're here to find out. So now that we got the beliefs and stuff out of the way, we're going to welcome everyone in the chat. Good to see you. Hi, Rebecca. Fisher Piper, Polar Origins. Good to see you guys. So Claude here was born in France in 1946. And as a teenager, he hiked to Paris, where he pursued a career as a singer. Why does all these cult leaders, musicians, and singers, right? It's really odd. It's really strange. The leader of the Heaven's Gate cult was also a musician and a singer. David Koresh of the Branch Davidians was also a singer. It's really weird, right? There's a connection there that I haven't quite put my finger on, but it's really strange, right? And he pursued this career as a singer, and apparently he had several successful singles and musical songs, and he went under the name Claude Seller. Then he married a nurse and had 2 children. Right, and then in 1973, he founded a racing car magazine called Autopop, where he also worked at it as a test driver for. But Claude's dreams were crushed in November of '73 because a new law was introduced in France, right, banning speeding on the highway, which ended his work as a test driver. Which that is very important right there, right? He couldn't make it as a musician. Well, not enough to make a complete living out of it. Then he decided to become a test driver for race cars. When he was no longer able to do that because of the law that was passed, he all of a sudden met some extraterrestrials in a ship and decided to start a cult. Right? I don't know. Let's find out. So on December of 1973, he claimed that he had been contacted by an extraterrestrial race, which was called the Elohim, while walking along Pedalasis Oasis Mountain. This is the mountain right here. He claims that these extraterrestrial beings had this symbol on the hull of their ship, right, and on their clothing. And basically that's when the Elohim said that they basically created humanity using their advanced technology, and said that the Elohim have historically been mistaken as gods. And the thing that I forgot to mention earlier is this is a atheistic cult. They don't believe in God. Well, that's what they're labeled as, is an atheistic cult. They don't believe in anything. They're atheists. It's an atheist cult, which is very interesting because it seems like that the Elohim is the ones that they worship, so that would be classified as a god, right? And that the Elohim are just extraterrestrial beings being misrepresented as God. So in a way that they do actually believe in God, right? But he believes that, he says that there have been 40 Elohim/human hybrids that have served as prophets preparing humanity. Among them, again, are Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad, with, get this, Rael himself being the 40th and final prophet. Right? He's got to be a prophet. You got to be a prophet to run a cult, right? Right? And who's the other 36 prophets, Rael? Dang, bro, you're going to tell me that out of all the people in the world, the creators of humanity, the Elohim choose this dude, this guy right here, the failed singer and failed race car test driver, right up there next to Buddha and Jesus. Right? I don't know about you guys, but I mean, let you decide, Then the Elohim go on to tell him, well, that humanity has entered this age of apocalypse, right, in which it threatens itself with nuclear annihilation, and that just like all of the different prophets and channelers have said and have always said, right? It's all doomsday. It's all end of the world stuff. And that, and this is the important part, which I find the most interesting, is like what I mentioned earlier in their belief systems, is that the only way that the Elohim live forever, because they're technically immortal, right, is through cloning, right? And Raëlianism holds that humanity must find a way to harness this new cloning technology for development for peaceful purposes. And when that is achieved, Elohim will return in 1935. Right, with their advanced technology, and establish a utopia. And the Raelians are to build this embassy for the Elohim to land. right, and build this landing pad space station so that they can come and bring their technology to humanity. So in 1974, an organization based on the ideas, which was when this Raelian movement first started, this movement was called the Movement for Welcoming the Elohim Creators of Humanity. That is a long title. What were they thinking on that, right? That's when it was launched, and that's when Claude here, right, began referring to himself as Rael. But there was some controversy brewing. There's always some controversy with these cults, right? And so this movement for welcoming the Elohim, there was a group of people that wanted to break away from Rael, right? And there's this huge controversy, and there's only a few ways out of a cult controversy, right? As we've shown in the UFO Doomsday Cults Part 1, right? And there's only a few ways to do it, right? So Rael, he's either got to do the switcheroo, he's got to do the okie-do, or just completely rebrand himself, right? Just like the Ashtar Command cult did. So let's find out what he does. So some members of the movement for welcoming the Elohim Creators of Humanity wanted the organization to take a different route, right? A broader interest in ufology beyond Rael's own claims. Because apparently it was only Rael. Rael's message was the only one true message. He's the last living prophet of the Elohim, right? And supposedly they also wanted to restrict Rael's authority within the group. So what did Rael do? He called an emergency meeting, right? And dismissed these executives, right? Yes, off with the blasphemers, and replaced them with 7 of his own supporters. Man, you never question the cult leader, right? You never question the great prophet of the Elohim, the last remaining prophet to ever exist. You must bow at the feet of the Almighty Rael, right? So in order to curb these dissenters and detractors within this group, Rael announced that he had been contacted by the Elohim a second time, right? This is the time that he was taken aboard the ship and traveled to the Elohim's planet, right? And, it's just a coincidence, right? That when people aren't doing what you want them to do within your cult, you got to tell them that the space daddy said to do it, right? It's come down from the heavens. It's come down from the space lords that you have to obey me. And with this new visit came brand new revelations, right? That they had taken him to a ship and shown him his planet, and he was able to have sex with these robot space ladies, right? But the opposition to Rael within this group still remained in the group. And even though Rael told them that the Elohim said to get rid of the members of the council, and that he had another contact experience, and that he was taken to the ships of the Elohim and went to the Elohim planet and had sex with several robotic women, Rael just disbanded the group, right? In 1976, and he rebranded it. He rebranded it the Raelian Movement. Shorter title, better title. And some also refer to it as the Raelian Church. And that's what happened, right? And after the switcheroo didn't work, after the firing of the board members and putting in his own followers, and the new contact experience with the Elohim didn't work, where the Elohim took him to their planet, right? He still couldn't win them over. So, man, they're really missing out on this dude, right? I'd have been all over this guy. He's been to space, and extraterrestrials came and picked him up, took him to a different planet. Let's go, Rael. Had sex with a bunch of robot women, but he just decided to trash it and rebrand it, and he called it the Raelian movement instead, right? So instead of it being about extraterrestrials and the Elohim visiting the planet, it's now about him. So the new and improved, rebranded movement operated along a very strict hierarchy, right? With Rael as the director. So in 1976, the Raëlians they did a huge mission to the Canadian province of Quebec to attract converts and new cult members for the UFO cult. And then the next year, in 1977, the Quebecian branch of the movement was established, which was structured around this hierarchy of 7 levels, right? Which sounds very familiar to the Heaven's Gate cult, which I'm going to cover next week. It's so deep and goes in so many different directions. I'm still doing research on it right now, but the Heaven's Gate cult believes in the next level, and they believe that there will be transformed into extraterrestrials in the next level, right? So they attracted a lot more followers, establishing this place in Quebec. And then the group obtained an estate in France before relocating its operations to Quebec in 1980. They also went to Japan, followed by a visit to Africa and one into Australia. So in the early 1980s, the movement then bought a campground in southern France, which they named Eden in 1984. But then old Rael here, he went into a years-long retreat in which he avoided public appearance because his wife left him. His wife left him and the movement as well. And he subsequently began a relationship with a young Japanese Raelian named Lisa. That's Lisa right there. Yep. He loves those Asian women. Well, those Asian women love him. I'm not too sure. So in 1992, 40 Raelians were expelled from the group. Reasons unknown. They were probably sick of Rael's fake made-up stories and marrying young women like Lisa here. But time after time, as I've shown you guys, they always form another group, right? Whenever things aren't going their way and there's some dissent within the group, they always break away and they create a breakaway group, right? And that's what they did. What do you want to? And they always claim that the person that they're breaking away from is been infiltrated by evil, dark forces, right? And I'm willing to bet that these group of 40 dissenters within this Raelian movement is going to claim something like that, right? Just like the Ashtar Command cult did. So this smaller group of 40 people that got kicked out by Rael they rebranded themselves and called themselves the Apostles of the Last Days. And they claimed that Rael had been taken over by Satan. Yes, it's not the evil Elohim beings that broke away from the original Elohim group like the Ashtar Command people said. that there was an evil Ashtar Command sect that broke away from the good Ashtar Command people and then infiltrated into the group and started talking about all these doomsday prophecies that never come true. This one with Rael, he was taken over by Satan, right? That's how you get rid of your opposition in the community, folks. If you haven't learned by now with these groups, you just claim that they've been taken over by dark forces of evil, right? When you no longer want to go along with what they're doing, right? Just like the Ashtar Command cult I talked about in episode 1. So in 1992, the Raelian movement bought 115 acres in Quebec, renaming the property the Garden of the Prophet. And it was here in Quebec in 1997 that the organization opened up UFO land. Yes. UFO land. Boom, let's go. Let's go to the UFO land of the Elohim extraterrestrials. And its purpose was to raise money for the landing pad, the embassy of the Elohim to land in 2035. Here's another picture of it. UFO land in Quebec. So in 2001, it closed to the public because it was not financially feasible, right? What a shame. What a shame UFO land had to close. That would be a great attraction now, right? Let's go to UFO land, Quebec, Canada. So it was also in that month in 1997, a month after this gentleman, Ian Wilmut, right here, announced the birth of Dolly the sheep. It was a successful, the very first successful animal clone. So then Rael got the great idea to start a cloning company because from his contact experiences with the Elohim, he realized that the way that they live forever is through cloning. So they'll clone themselves and then transfer their consciousness from this clone into another clone, and that's how they achieve immortality. So Rael established a company called Valiant Venture to explore the commercial applications of cloning. And through that company came Clonaid, the human cloning company in Canada, which is a real company, real website. You can look this up, Google Clonaid. You'll come to this website right here. You can read all about it. And he created this Clonaid company, right, with his right-hand man, which is more accurately his right-hand woman, Bridget Bolsinger, right here. She was the head of this joint venture with Rael at Clonaid. And both spoke before U.S. President Bill Clinton's Congress hearing on human cloning in March of 2001. This is a picture of Bill Clinton talking about human cloning. I'm going to look into this. I'm going to look into this a lot because apparently there was a lot of talk of human cloning in the late 90s and into the early 2000s. So I'm going to look into that a lot. I'm actually going to have Shane the Ruiner back on Sunday at 2 p.m. EST, and we're going to talk about this human cloning stuff, right? So in 2002, the company Clonaid claimed to have produced a human clone, a baby named Eve. And this brought the group, the Raelian cult, a lot of media attention, right? Which, as it would if you could claim to clone human beings, right? But before we get into that, right? Rael announced that in December of '97, he had received another revelation from the Elohim, commanding him to form a new group within the Raelian movement, the Order of Raelian Angels. This was to be a secret society, open only to women. This dude loves sex, loves Asian women too, who would become the consorts of the Elohim after their arrival on Earth in 2035. So really, he duped all of these people into his stories of contacting the Elohim extraterrestrials so he could form this group after his wife left him, and that this group was going to be a secret group of women, all women, right, that he could have sex with until the Elohim showed up in 2035, and then the Elohim would have sex with him. Man, when you want to get stuff done and have sex with a bunch of women, you just got to talk to the big guy upstairs, right? God told me. Elohim told me to create this all-female group, okay? But how do I word this right so they don't think that I just want to have sex with them all, right? How do I keep the peace within this group? I know what I'll do. I'll just tell them that they're very special and that they'll be tasked with training themselves to become the Elohim's consorts, right? But guess who will be really doing this training? Oh, yeah. Guess who's going to be doing this training, guys? I don't see any other prophets around. Do you? You see any other prophets around? That means old Rael is going to be getting all the center cut on this bad boy. Yes. I'm going to train them this secret movement of all women group so well. I'm going to be running all the trains. Training. I'm going to be training them. I'm going to be training these women for when the Elohim arrive. Let's go. You guys are going to be the best consorts ever. So then Rael, old Rael boy here, he married a 16-year-old ballet student. Even when the Raelian cult discourages marriage. But for the leader and the prophet of the Elohim, you think he abides by the rules? No, he does not. Because in this instance, right, according to Rael, it was done because he had been questioned by customs officials when traveling with her across the borders, right? It's a good cover, Rael. Well done. I mean, wouldn't you be questioning this dude too? You'd be questioning this dude, a 50-year-old man traveling around with a 16-year-old girl. But the marriage ended quickly in November of 2002. They decided to divorce, but still remained a couple, right? Love sex, right? How's everybody doing in the chat? Good to see you, Lynn. Jenna Banana, what's up? Rebecca, yes. Chloe, Ryder Rangers is the call. Jump on board. Yes. I just got to make up a bunch of stories. Where can I sign up? Yeah. So this is really interesting right here. So in November 2002, a local man supposedly vandalized the group's property, causing significant damage. And Rael stated that this had been a preliminary test of the Abraham Project, which he claims that the Abraham Project was a joint operation between the Central Intelligence Agency and French intelligence agencies to assassinate him using schizophrenic people directed through mind control, which I think is it's pretty interesting, right? But in that same year of 2002, Bridget Bolsinger took a senior role in the Raelian movement and announced that the work at Clonaid in Canada had resulted in a baby clone named Eve, which she claimed was the world's first human clone. And can't find any pictures of baby Eve online. I tried searching different web browsers, no pictures of her at all. And in 2002, she wasn't put up for a scientific study or presented for scientific study by scientists. So then in January of 2003, the Raelians declared that Eve's parents had hidden themselves to evade attention. And apparently, baby Eve, as of 2018, is living in Israel. But this presentation of baby Eve and them claiming that she was the very first human clone gained the Raelians a lot of press coverage, right? And the group claimed publicly that this press generated around 5,000 new members. And they had also announced that further clone infants had been born, some in the Netherlands, some in Japan, South Korea, and Australia. And in January of 2003, Rael, along with Bolsinger, his right-hand woman of this Clonaid company, he appointed her the successor, his one and only successor of the Raelian cult. And then he also appointed he also made the claim that he identified himself as the figure from Buddhist prophecy. So this whole Clonaid thing is really interesting because back around 3 years ago, there was this rapper. His name was Kid Boo. I mentioned this in the discussion with Christopher John Bjorkness, that he claimed to have been cloned by this Clonaid company in Canada. And I actually have a clip for you guys here that I'm going to play.
Jen was born in Jersey. However, I was cloned by Clonaid in Canada. My model number is 0112568 if anyone wants to see the registration in Clonaid.
So that dude, Kid Boo, claims to have been a clone from this company called Clonaid. I think that's very interesting to this whole thing, but it definitely shows where this whole idea of clones and stuff came from, right? It came from this Raelian cult. Now, whether it's true, whether they can actually clone people or not, who really knows? But the idea and the thought came from this Raelian cult. And then other people have adopted that same ideology, and that's what all these secret space program people and these super soldier people all talk about, is that they've been cloned and their clone goes to space, and that they have several clones, and that they're cyborg people, and that they have cyborgs in space, and that's what this dude Rael from this Raelian cult was talking about. He talked about the cyborgs before he talked about the cloning, before he got into the cloning. So this cult's really got all of it. It's a mishmash of a bunch of different stuff. You got the cloning, you got the cyborgs, you got the Elohim being the creators of humanity, that the Bible is actually just one big extraterrestrial intervention, that extraterrestrials created humanity. There's a lot wrapped up into this Raelian cult. So there you have it, guys. That is Raëlianism. That's the Raelian movement. It's still a thing today, with a headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, with reported membership of this cult goes on, say, several hundreds of thousands of people. And another thing that's interesting that I forgot to mention earlier is it's reported that Rael appeared alongside a group of women called Rael's Girls in the October 2004 issue of Playboy. Obviously, I couldn't find that issue of. I mean, I can find the issue, but it's just the cover of it, and I'm not going to buy the magazine to find out if he was really in it. But that's the reported thing, that he was in this Playboy issue in October of 2004 with these women called Rael's Girls. So, yep. How's everybody doing in the chat? Good to see you guys. What's up, Scotty boy? What the Flock TV, please hit the like. Yes, please hit the like button to help the channel and the algorithms. Lynn, yes. This is a sex ring. Yes, it definitely is. Hi, Nina. How's it going, Nina the Mystic? Good to see you. Yeah, so please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please get on all the different podcast platforms. And if you could donate, the Buy Me a Coffee donation links are in the description. PayPal donation links are in the description. And Super Chats and Super Stickers are always available for premieres and live videos as well. Kim, I can't believe people fund this cult leader. Yes, I don't know how people fall into this whole cult ideology. Anyway, anybody that's claiming to be a prophet is full of nonsense. It's a way to boost people up, and I think that it's a part of us as human beings. We want to be led. We want someone to be the arbiter of information. Right, and so therefore people are easily, they're easily followed. There's a statistic that says that 80% of the people that are living today are followers. Hi, Marissa, good to see you. But yeah, in the next week's episode, I'm going to get into the Heaven's Gate cult. The Heaven's Gate cult there's so much information on the Heaven's Gate. I'm still doing research on it, but I thought I would do this Raëlianism cult first, because we discover where this thought and this idea of cloning comes from. These cyborg people, the thought and the ideas behind the Elohim being the creators of humanity, and how that is continuously perpetuated in the community. I mean, people just take these ideas and not know where they came from. Right? The people that are channeling Ashtar, the people that are channeling, that are talking to the Great White Brotherhood of Light, the Galactic Federation of Light, and all this stuff, they don't tell you who the first channeler of this stuff actually was, and how that it's more than likely that they were just making stuff up because they needed to figure out a way to make money, right? A lot of this comes around to money, and all of these cult leaders that I've researched so far were out of work. They were freeloaders. They were people that failed in one aspect of their life. Like this guy Rael, he failed as a musician, though he did have some successful singles in France. And then he was making good money as being a test race car driver. He had a magazine, and that failed because the government in France made a law that no speeding on the highway. So then he was like, okay, well, how can I take advantage of this situation, right? They're opportunists. They're like, oh, well, let's fake a contact with extraterrestrials, because that was a huge thing that was beginning to become really popular in the late 60s and the early 70s. This idea of extraterrestrial intervention and these UFOs coming down and landing. The ancient astronaut theorist ideology was coming to fruition during that time as well. Eric von Daniken just wrote his book in the late 60s. It might have been the mid 60s. It was either 65 or 69. I can't remember which one it was. So this dude was obviously taking thoughts and ideas from previous people and people that had come before him, and then put his own spin on and his own thoughts and his own ideas onto it as well, just like people do today. Just like all these people that are talking about extraterrestrial intervention, the ships are going to land, that there's this galactic space fleet all around us, monitoring us at all times. Like, that's the same thing that all these cults have been talking about for decades now. And people just don't know. Right? Yes, Amanda, I remember a rapper that was, I forget that I can do this. I forget that I can show your guys' comments. Sorry. Oh, yeah, Scotty boy, I'm going to get into the Billy Meyer cult as well. He got caught faking a bunch of UFO footage and UFO pictures as well. Polar Origins, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Great show. Glad to have found it through CJB, new subscriber. Thanks for the fun show. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate your support, Polar Origins. Nancy, good to see you. Yes, I just showed a video. You have to go back just a little bit, Amanda. I just showed a video from the rapper named Kid Buu that claimed that he was cloned through the Clone Aid Company in Canada. What's up, King James? Good to see you. Nance, good to see you. Yeah, guys, so I have a lot coming up soon. I got the premiere of my documentary, JFKX, Solving the Crime of the Century, with Jay Widener. It's premiering on Saturday and will be available very soon on Amazon, Tubi, and a few other streaming platforms as well. I will notify you guys when that gets released. Then I'll have Shane the Ruiner back on Sunday at 2 p.m. EST. Be looking out for that show. And then next week, I will be on, I'll be doing the show on the Heaven's Gate cult, which is a lot of information and a lot of things that I have to put together and get these images for you guys. Jenna Banana, awesome content writer. Thanks for keeping it coming. Yes, I'm going to keep it coming. We're going to get through all of these cults. There's so many of them, but we've covered covered a bulk of it in that first show, UFO Doomsday Cults Part 1. So thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate your time this evening. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel in the algorithms. Donations on PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee are much appreciated and help support my work. And we'll see you guys again on Sunday. And you can follow me on Instagram. Thanks, Sam. You can follow me on Instagram at Raised by Giants Pod or on Twitter at Raised by Giants 8. Lori, good to see you. Yes, thanks, you guys. Appreciate your time this evening. See you guys on Sunday.